I Guys, I'm so thrilled. Um, well, not only am I here on time, but I figured out how to upload a thumbnail like beforehand instead of going back through and trying to do a screenshot, whatever. Anyway, I'm proud of me. I did great. So actually, and that's one of the things that when I'm talking to victims of abuse, um, I'm often like there's a phase where you're trying to help someone understand like their reality and what they're dealing with. And then there's a phase where it's like we want to be moving toward action and basically starting to move ourselves into position to protect ourselves or to get ourselves out of the situation or to you know build in the future that we want to be living. I feel so badly for so many victims of abuse. I've had multiple conversations this week actually with people who they realized the situation they were in. And now they're looking back on what they thought they knew reality to be or the relationship to be, with their parents or their friend or this like partner. And it's completely different than what they thought was the situation. And so there's all of the memories that you have that you saw through a specific lens of, let's say, love. And then you're looking back at all of them. And so it feels like a loss to lose that understanding of what this relationship was or what reality was and that isn't true. But you have all of these very vivid memories of this person that you see as loving you and then realizing like, well, maybe they didn't love me. You know, how long has this been going on? What did I miss? And it's not anybody's fault. It's not anybody's fault. Just because we might have missed some red flags, all that means is that we were taken advantage of in a normal relationship construct. That's why they do that. They don't come in acting abusively the way they end up acting abusively. It always starts off small and then ramps up. A lot of it is boundary testing or seeing what they can get away with, or maybe they're tired of pretending to be someone they're not. Sometimes people think that they're doing a good thing by, well, I'm gonna try and get this person in a relationship with me or love bomb them into liking me, and not realizing that they can't sustain it. So eventually you just can't. I think a really good example of this actually was in the Leonard and Penny storyline on The Big Bang Theory. She she had to be convinced to date Leonard. He wore her down. He was putting her on a pedestal, trying to get her, and just putting in all of this effort and work to because he wanted her and he thought she was, beautiful and special and really kind. And she's got her own kind of street smarts intelligence. Um, and so they finally get in the relationship and then he stops doing all of the things. And she notices. And he's like, well, but we're together now. So even though he didn't have intention to misrepresent himself or to misrepresent what he could be capable of in a relationship, he still he still love bombed her basically and couldn't sustain it over the course of the relationship. And I think the original trajectory for that couple was to be divorced later, and then people did not want that, so they changed the storyline. But it super would have made sense in context of the personalities in that show because if you even with good intentions are love bombing another person because you've decided you want to date them and you don't care how they themselves feel about it, or you're not allowing them to make that decision for themselves, then you've created a thing that you can't sustain. Any relationship that we have with anybody, it has to be something that you can sustain on your own. Oh my gosh, hey everybody. Um, so maybe my bad. I should have started with the T so that there was time for people to get on the thing. I do have tea actually. Okay. So I was in our abusive relationships and there was this person, her username was Maya something. And she wrote a comment, and then she's like, "You should come to my subreddit. We talk about this over here at this other subreddit." And I go and I click on the subreddit. And I was like, all of the content was, I don't want to say good, but I will say a lot of victims of abuse would think it's good. It's the kind of content that like kind of makes you go, "Oh wow, well, I need more," and it just seems like really good content. But something just seemed really off to me, and I say this as someone who did this. I built a very large subreddit over a long period of time, and I was like, "What's the deal here?" Because especially since the top post was something like, "Oh, we've decided to partner with this company," and I'm like, okay, this subreddit has, I don't know, 10 people, 20 people, something like that. After a month of existing, they have a partner. That does not even make any sense. So I looked up the partner, and it was like somebody with a Harvard background. And they were talking about how victims of abuse and other people like need support, and community like chat rooms. But there was some language about AI, making it sound like AI was a bad thing. But I was like, "Well, why is this language here? Because if you're running a community chat, who cares?" Well, I start doing the process to sign up for the community chat, and the community chat is AI driven. So they have an AI person in charge of the community chat. So who knows even if anybody else in the other rooms are community like part of the community chat, or if they're AI people. There's no way to tell. And one of the community chat leaders, their name was Maya. And I was like, they're literally, I don't know if you'd call it, um, they're trying to make it seem like this organic operation, but really it's an arm of their business that they're using to develop to move people towards this like AI tool, that they tried to present as not an AI tool. Anyway, so I'm gonna circle back around and check in on them at some point, because I'm like, y'all, the AI, the AI chat bot that's running the community things that you have no idea if anybody else in the community is an actual human being. Yeah, you're already misrepresenting yourself on Reddit, and I get red flags. That concerns me. It does not seem genuine at all. But we'll see what direction that goes in. And I'm really surprised the Reddit mods haven't, or the admins haven't caught it yet. But yeah, anyway. So yeah. So I've had a couple of conversations with people, going back to the previous topic, a couple of conversations with people this week, actually. I don't know how that happened, where people are realizing, they realize the truth about their relationship, and they're grappling with that sadness and that dysphoria of thinking you knew what was true, but it's not true. Um, and so then how do you recontextualize like literally everything that you thought reality was about the situation? And I think it's good to take our time with something, and to also exist in a space where it's okay, where we don't have to know immediately. And I know that's hard to do. But the more room you give yourself to kind of incorporate this, the less drastic it is, like a shock, a psychological shock all at once. So I think just like being able to hold it in this way where oh, things were not as I thought they were. And I've got this feeling of grief, and also I'm going to be going back through my entire recollection of what I thought this relationship was, or who I thought this person was. Um yeah, and over time just folding in those new things that we learned, so it's not again like all at once. Cuz a lot of victims of abuse can end up in something called a dark night of the soul, where you're so overwhelmed, you're so sad, you may not even feel like you want to exist anymore. It just feels like everything within you is destroyed. And I really think that if we can just integrate those experiences more slowly and give ourselves time, and then that way we don't get in that just emotionally, psychologically destructive place, because it really is so damaging, I think. And I feel like I don't see a lot of victims of abuse really get that warning. And then you can end up in weird places on the internet. Just just be careful as always. Yeah, yeah. So, oh, and back to the Big Bang Theory. So another thing that I hate about the Big Bang Theory, not that I hate, but there's like so many abusive parents on that show, and they don't treat it as if they're abusive. And I feel like it was the same thing with this show that I hated called Everybody Loves Raymond, where the mom was so abusive. And then she had her golden child, Raymond, and then so he was abusive to other people. What a mess. So, like, these are funny shows that are showing these horrible situations, but in like a funny light. And it's the more I learn, the more I have like no tolerance for it anymore. So I think in the show also, Leonard's mom was so absolutely soul destroying, and she wouldn't even hug him. Like the lore is that he made his own hugging machine because his mother wouldn't hug him. Uh, which is, I mean, that's how you get serial killers. That's that's a very deep level of psychological abuse that they just casually reference as a joke. So it's a therapy bot. It is. It is a therapy bot. Sorry, I just saw that. Yes, it is, entertainment person. It is a therapy bot. And they're using this guy's Harvard degree as I don't know, some kind of legit to give it legitimacy. And the Maya thing is AI, and the posts are written AI. At this point, I'm to the point where I start hearing that AI patter, even if I know it's coming from a human being, I don't want it. I'm tired. It's not this, or what is it? What's the language they use? Like they'll say pressure, or it's not this, it's that. I'm tired. I'm tired of life. I would like other human beings, even if we're not perfect. I think being aggressively human at this point is an act of resistance, and I'm tired. But yeah. So, what was another thing I wanted to talk about? I did want to do a mention of the hantavirus. The hantavirus. Okay, we're not worried about the hantavirus. I know the news cycle is like low key running with it a little bit. This is not the next COVID. I don't have new pandemic on my list until October 2027 to October 2028. So we're fine. No worries. I mean, do like your normal, I don't know, stuff like take your vitamin D and don't live in a place you wouldn't live through another lockdown. But I don't see another pandemic happening for a little while. Um, that said, the United States, I think next year we might have some martial law happening, but things have to ramp up to that point. We're not there yet. We're all right. We're just, moving into position, maybe analyzing who we're living with, making sure we're in a place that we can stand. Um, I remember during the COVID lockdowns that I would see like the videos from New York, and I was like, I can't imagine these people living in these tiny, tiny apartments, and then there's no greenery except for like one little spot that everyone wants to go to. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. We're not doing that. Uh, anyway, so let's see. I let's oh At this point, I have something new about the sheer emotional toll this situation is taking on me. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to circle back around to that person. After the Discord, we're gonna do a voice chat or after this video, we're gonna do a voice chat on the Discord, which I haven't done before, but we'll see. And I know there was one person in particular who wanted to do something more interactive, which makes sense because there's this whole thing where you like keep an eye on the video, and then you're making sure you catch people on the writing part, the messages. Um, and but I mean, people make it work, so it's fine. It's fine. No worries. All right. I because this is YouTube, I don't think y'all have gotten the best explanation of grief I've ever heard. And I'm actually going to pull that up because it is worth a read. This person, it's so hard to explain grief to somebody who's never experienced it. And somehow this guy, I don't know if it's a guy, this person wrote down this description of grief as waves that always really stuck with me. I think I want to read that because it was really great. And I think it articulates something that's so hard for people to understand. Okay, sorry, give me 1 second. I may not be able to find it. Oh, here we go. Okay. The person's name, this is from like 5 years ago, is UG Snow, and they made a comment in our assistance. And he said, all right, here goes. I'm old. What that means is I've survived so far, and a lot of people I've known and loved did not. I've lost friends, best friends, acquaintances, coworkers, grandparents, mom, relatives, teachers, mentors, students, neighbors, and a host of other folks. I have no children, and I can't imagine the pain it must be to lose a child, but here's my 2 cents. I wish I could say that you get used to people dying. I never did. I don't want to. It tears a hole through me whenever somebody I love dies, no matter the circumstances. But I don't want it to not matter. I don't want it to be something that just passes. My scars are a testament to the love and the relationship that I had for and with that person. And even if the scar is deep, so is the love. So be it. Emotional scars are a testament to life. Scars are a testament that I can love deeply and live deeply and be cut or even gouged, and that I can heal and continue to live and continue to love. And the scar tissue is stronger than the original flesh ever was. Scars are a testament to life. Scars are only ugly to people who can't see. As for griefs, you'll find it comes in waves. When the ship is first wrecked, you're drowning with the wreckage all around you. Everything floating around you reminds you of the beauty and magnificence of the ship that was and is no more, and all you can do is float. You find some pieces of the wreckage and you hang on for a while. Maybe it's for some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or a photograph. Maybe it's a person who is also floating. For a while, all you can do is float. Stay alive. In the beginning, the waves are 100 feet tall and crash over you without mercy. They come in 10 seconds apart and don't even give you time to catch your breath. All you can do is hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you'll find the waves are still 100 feet tall, but they come further apart. When they come, they still crash all over you and wipe you out. But in between, you can breathe, you can function. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, a street intersection, the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything, and the waves come crashing. But in between waves, there's life. Somewhere down the line, it's different for everybody. You find that the waves are only 80 feet tall or 50 feet tall. And while they still come, they come further apart. You can see them coming: an anniversary, a birthday, a Christmas, or a landing at O'Hare. You can see it coming for the most part and prepare yourself. And when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will, again, come out the other side, soaking wet, sputtering, still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage, but you'll come out. Take it from an old guy. The waves never stop coming, and somehow you don't really want them to. But you learn that you'll survive with them, and other waves will come, and you'll survive them too. If you're lucky, you'll have lots of scars from lots of loves and lots of shipwrecks. Anyway, that's UG Snow. And I don't think I've ever read anything that's as um, beautiful or accurate about grief. And the only thing I think is different is for victims of abuse, because a lot of the times what victims of abuse are mourning wasn't ever really real, um, or there's so much of it, or sometimes victims of abuse can be so focused on mourning like what they should have had with this one relationship that was abusive that they don't recognize that maybe it's happening again in a different dynamic. So like you can be mourning the relationship you didn't have with your parents, um, what you should have had as a child who was loved and cared for, and be focused on that and not realize that the person who's your partner is also abusive. Um, so then when you finally like clock it, then you realize, oh no, it's happening again. I I wish there was a word for that level of feeling of being unmoored and somehow also feeling betrayed, yet again by somebody that you've like emotionally connected to in such a deep level. So I think we use the word CPTSD to kind of convey that there's so much hurt and trauma and grief that someone's been through because of the pain they've experienced, the abuse they've been through. But it doesn't, I don't think, gets the totality of just how sad it is, because you're not just mourning a thing that happened to you. You're mourning what you thought it was, and then you're mourning, what should have happened to you, or possibly the person that you should have been. And I find that a lot of victims of abuse think a lot often about, who would I have been if I didn't have this experience? What kind of person would I be if I didn't have, this abuser harming me the way that they have? What kind of life would I have right now if I didn't have to spend so much mental and emotional bandwidth, cognitive load on surviving or vigilance? It takes over so much of like how we have to think and survive every day. And so it leaves you without much for doing anything else. But like the person who G Snow, who wrote the thing about grief, it does, as you can get distance from the harm, it does the waves do still come, but fewer and fewer, and you know that you can survive them. So there's like that resilience kind of that you build. It's not as bad as it was. But yeah, I think there's just a very specific kind of injury, like emotional injury, that victims of abuse get, that is so hard to articulate to anyone who hasn't been through it. Because a lot of people think, well, the bad things happen to everybody, and it's like, it's more layered. It's more layered than that. It's not just that a bad thing has happened to you. It's that you were gaslit into thinking something was other than it was, being disconnected from reality, and then not having had what you thought you were experiencing is, I find, like, deeply destabilizing for people. Anyway, not to be a bummer, but yeah, grief is grief is really hard, and victim grief is even harder because sometimes you don't even know what you're mourning. All right. Not to be sad. Sorry, guys. Um, yeah, I wanted to do a video this week and I didn't get to it. Okay, so the thing about doing videos, the reason why I've been able to do content for like 14 years, well, no, at this point it's been like 20, 25. The way you can do content and continue to do it without getting burnout is you don't plan it. You just, as soon as you get an idea, you like do it. And so as I was doing writing, I would get the idea, and the article would start writing. It's like I would start writing it in my mind. I'm like, okay, I've got to get to a computer and like write it down. And it got to a point where the process was maybe about an hour, where I'd write it down and then go back and edit it, read it a couple of times, and then post it. And so what I've been trying to do with the videos is to get better at that. And so catching the idea and then going and making a video and then getting better at extemporaneous speaking, to kind of like streamline that process. So anyway, one of the videos that I wanted to do was one about like pulling in to the present, what we want our future to look like, and taking actions in the present to kind of anchor it. Um, I'm gonna be honest, I stole that from an Oracle deck from like years ago. I was just like, man, this is amazing. I think it was a Guan Yin deck. So, um, but just the idea of bringing the future into the present, knowing that even if you're not in the moment living the life you want to be living, or things aren't the way that you want them to be, that there is a future where that is the case, and you can start to pull elements as you can of that future into how you're living now. And so I'm a big fan of starting where you can, starting small. Um, so if, for example, you are stuck living with an abuser, part of the future that you want to have is not living with them anymore, living on your own, or maybe, renting a room somewhere, whatever is possible for one situation. You think about, okay, well, this is where I want to be. And what can I do today that kind of anchors that within me, in myself, that makes a small thing in that direction achievable. So it's not like a mood board. Like a mood board is more, this is what I want. I want to visualize it. I'm talking about actually doing the thing, something that pulls that piece into the present. So for example, if you wanted to pull into the present, like living on your own, you might think about like, okay, well, how can I do something in my life that is reflective of like what if I were living on my own? Like you might commit to making sure dishes are done. I don't know. Something small that you can achieve for yourself. Because also we don't want to make ourselves feel overwhelmed. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we feel like we're failing ourselves. So just identifying something that kind of speaks to you. For me, it was early on, it would have been keeping a kind of snack for me that if I had it in my house, like my brother or my dad or somebody, they would have eaten it. And so for me, it would be like, oh, I'm gonna have this snack. I'm gonna have it in my room. They won't know where it is, and this will be an anchor to that thing that I want to achieve. Where I'm living on my own. Because if I were living on my own, I'd be able to have this snack anytime I want, and no one would take it from me. And so I might hide that snack in my room for like midnight snackies. And that would be like kind of a taste of that future, if that makes sense. Yeah. But basically anything that kind of speaks to you individually and kind of resonates. Ooh, it could also be listening to kind of music that you would like. Let's say they hate the music that you like, and so you don't listen to the music you love. And so you're like, okay, well, I'm going to find a way to build this music into my day so that I can access that feeling of being able to listen to the music that I love. Because if someone criticizes your music, you might stop listening to it because maybe you don't want to feel like you're impinging on their experience also, or maybe it just makes you feel a little bit of shame, or you don't want to feel judged for it. So you just go, okay, well, I'll stop listening to music, or I'll stop listening to music where they can hear it. And so reclaiming something that maybe you made yourself small for, but not in a way that's unsafe for you, like just to be clear. Um, yeah, so like maybe with headphones or whatever. If there's like a thing that abusers criticize you for, I think a radical act of resistance is to do it. Not so that they know about it though. Like don't give them a chance to abuse you more or shame you about it. But if you're trying a new thing, maybe a new hobby, just do it more. Be about it, as you don't have to be good. It just has to anchor you, to this future that you have where you can do the things that you want to do and you're not being ashamed about it. Uh, Shame truly is the mechanism that, aside from physical aggression, shame truly is the mechanism that abusers use to convince victims that they are bad, wrong, should change who they are, should make themselves smaller. If they call you stupid, they're shaming you about your intelligence. If they call you ugly, they're shaming you about how you look. If they call you, if they say what you're doing is wrong, they're shaming you for the choices that you're making. And so what you can do is you can start to recognize, oh, this is how they're trying to control me, and like put up that internal resistance to the shame, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, I think I think victims of abuse really struggle with the shame piece because they're so desiring to be accountable, that the shame really cuts right to them. So ironically, the less you care, and the fact that they can't shame you gives you kind of more emotional power. But again, abuse hijacks healthy relationship patterns. So it's normal in a relationship to care about what another person thinks about you. You think, oh, they love me, they have my best interests at heart. Um, therefore I should care what they think, and they slide in that framework and then flip it around on you, and you are at a disadvantage because you're not doing that to them. So if you can start to recognize like the shame, the ways they're shaming you, because they don't have to, if it's a dating thing or a friend, they don't have to be in a relationship dynamic with you. They don't have to be your friend. Why would you want to be a friend or in a relationship dynamic with someone that you think is so terrible you're going to shame them every day? Again, a healthy person would be like, "No, this isn't working for me." It's a little bit different, of course, with your parents. Parents shaming you, that's hard because usually that starts really young, and they've installed all of the insecurities that you have, or have wildly distorted them to yourself, and they've done it over years. So it's that one takes time. That one takes a lot of time to undo. But if you can recognize in the moment, "Oh, they're shaming me and they're doing it to manipulate me somehow," that can at least help you in the moment, even if you still feel it, to understand like, "Oh, okay, this is for their own purpose. They're being selfish. This isn't necessarily true." And even if it were true, somebody who actually loved me wouldn't talk to me like this. 'Cause you know that because you don't talk to anybody like that. So, yeah, the shame, I think I wrote an article about that. I might post that at the bottom. I think it was pretty good for this. Okay. Oh, actually, that reminds me. So I was on the Discord and I was talking to somebody who wanted to get an ally, like a not a family member, but an adjacent person. And I basically said, okay, okay, but you can't want them to believe you. Like you can't need them to believe you for you to feel good. Like you've got to divest yourself of all desire for that to occur. And it's something that victims of abuse, I think, really run into, because to help them validate it to themselves, they're hoping for other people to validate them. Um, and because it isn't validated to themselves, sometimes the other person is not going to validate it because it's like, well, if you haven't validated it to yourself, I can't validate it for you. I don't know. I don't know what happened. There's also kind of like a low key control element to it. People don't like being told what to believe, which is fair. So, ironically, the less you care about whether or not someone validates your experience of abuse, the more likely they are to believe it. So, the more kind of emotional distance you have, and the more like kind of matter of fact you are about presenting it, well, it kind of depends on the audience, but the more you are certain about that it's occurred to you and you're not needing that person's validation, in my experience, the more likely they are to believe you. So that one's really hard for victims of abuse. I'm definitely not making a video on that because that's gonna be triggering for somebody, I'm sure. And I don't want to do that. But but I think the more certain victims can get in themselves about what happened to them, that the better they can communicate their experience to somebody else. So it's like that early piece where you're confused about what's happened to you, and you're pulling together the pieces. Um, that's kind of the hard part. I will say a lot of people around you may recognize that whoever this person is garbage and may have just been waiting to tell you. You'd be surprised. So, like, let's say you started dating somebody who was terrible, but you have people who knew that they couldn't tell you that they thought that because maybe you would just double down harder and then isolate yourself away from them. So they might actually know. Yeah, there's like all sorts of different ways this works out. I will say, I will say it is hard when you're on the other side watching a person that you care about be in an abuse dynamic. It's very much, I think, like watching a horror movie because you're watching a person make these choices and decisions. And it's like, no, but at the same time, if you come in, again, people don't like to be told, they don't like to be coerced. Hey, hi, it's good to see you. I hope everybody's okay. Um, what was I miss it. It's fine. No worries. So yeah, the dealing with people and and everybody's conception of like what is happening with the relationship is. Oh, I think the worst thing that happens for victims is when they were so hard trying to convince themselves that this is a good person, that they represented this person in such a positive way to everybody. And then finally kind of like got to a point where they were like, okay, well, the reality is that they're abusive. But then all of a sudden everyone else is primed to not believe you. Um, oh, that's hard. That's hard. That's one reason why I really like documentation. You know, because that way you can not necessarily show other people, but you can validate it to yourself. And I find that the more you can validate it to yourself, the better position you are to communicate it to other people. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, guys, you know aliens aren't real, right? So apparently, today I just the Pentagon is releasing like their files on aliens. It's not aliens, it's interdimensional beings. I you don't get the aircraft movement you get if someone is working according to our laws of physics. So I just this is gonna be interesting to see where this goes. But yeah, I saw the release today and I was like, all right, well, I guess this is happening now. Great job, everybody. It's just always liked science fiction, but I didn't want to be living in the science fiction. So not my favorite. It'll be interesting to see how kind of like everybody handles it. And then there's that Disclosure Day movie coming out. So I guess we're all just that's on the track we're on. Um, let's see. Oh no, not that one. I'm trying to remember if I already talked about this in another video. But one of the things about rules lawyering that I don't think that we all really have a handle on is that anytime you have rules lawyering in a relationship or dynamic, it's founded on the idea that somebody's doing something wrong, right? In order to rules lawyer, someone has to be wrong, someone has to be right. When this happens in the abuse dynamic, um, unlike in a legal situation where there's like a third person, there's like a judge, or a jury, it's just the two people. So if you have one person who's rules lawyering, they're automatically setting up a paradigm where one person's right, one person's wrong, and they've made themselves the determiner of the fact that you're wrong. And so you're already 3 layers deep on what's wrong about that. And I don't that's why I recommend like don't be in relationships with people like that and don't date attorneys if you can help it. Just my no-no list, not my no-no list. My very caution list is like attorneys, psychologists, just let's be careful, psychiatrists. I mean, just like those kind of groups of people. Um, and honestly, I might add engineers to that list because we love the nitpicky thinking when it comes to say systems of safety, like let's say a train system, but we do not love that approach in a relationship dynamic. Like everyone gets to participate. It's not just one person who's making the rules and then like lawyering. And not to go back to the Big Bang Theory, but Sheldon, yeah, not a healthy, not. It's fine. Like Sheldon is like a perfect example of a person who is an unintentional abuser who just I'm right, this is correct, blah blah blah. It's just like oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, and everyone loved this show for years, and I just could not understand why it didn't bother anybody but me. That's okay. I mean, I get it. It was friends hanging out, and we do love that. But yeah, Sheldon was abusive, and then Amy, there's something about many of the people in that show doing inappropriate things. So you got your Howard being absolutely inappropriate with women, like an actual creep and stalker. And then you've got like Bernadette, who was just so aggressive. Like she was out of pocket and they treated it as like this fun personality quirk. And I'm like, no, she's very aggressive and dominating, and it's not okay. Sheldon was the rules lawyering, kind of abusive person with unrealistic expectations. Like, you don't get to tell other people when they can go to the bathroom. You don't have to make anybody be on a bathroom schedule. That's intrinsically abusive. It doesn't matter that he's not intending to be abusive. He doesn't get to do that. That's not okay. It's fine. It's fine. And then, Leonard with Penny, just it's hard though, because once a character takes off, they like rewrite the character. So it's not technically like internally consistent the way like people are. But yeah, not a fan. Not a fan of a lot of what I saw there. All right. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask a question about, or um I just want to make sure that I'm checking in with everybody. Everybody's good. We're safe. Safe is the most important thing. And in fact, I feel like how to talk somebody through. There was somebody I was talking to earlier, and they were having they got contacted by a parent, and they went immediately into like that feeling you get, that spike when someone who's abusive is contacting you, and you're just um, you suddenly go into the fight or flight, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do I handle that? And so in that case, it was their parent, but sometimes it's someone like an abusive partner, ex, whomever, and you're trying to get distance, or you're trying to do something that you don't want them to know about. And so maybe they're contacting you, and you get the adrenaline spike. And I think, I usually recommend breathing because I want to activate that limbic system, but I also recommend, doing the things that make you feel safe. So like going into a small place and kind of being in that small, like dark place, maybe like a closet, or getting into your bed, something comfy with something to like curl up with. Really anything that makes you feel better. Like, so if it's putting down all the blinds in your windows and making sure your door is like triple check your door is locked. There's also these, what are they called? It's a pole you can buy, and you can use it for your door. And so you can basically, it's like got a rubber stopper foot and a thing on the door. It's like $100, I think, on Amazon last time I looked. And you use it to brace the door. And so I think their original audience for this was for like women, just for being in a hotel room or random, I don't know, situations. But I think if you're a victim of abuse and you're concerned that you've got an abuser who's going to try and like bust down your door, 10 out of 10 would recommend. It had great reviews. And in fact, I'm planning on getting it for my place, but I hadn't gotten around to it yet. It's not going to work on well, no, it might. I have a glass door, but the framing is wood. So I think I'm going to get two, one for the front door, one for the back door. And just, that sense of safety is often something like the abusers really take from you. And so anything you can do to kind of reinforce, like, I'm in this safe place, I can protect myself, I have distance from this harmful person. And if you live with that person, that may only be in your mind for a period of time. So no matter what happens, your mind, if you can protect your mind. Your mind is then that safe place. Obviously not as good as being physically safe. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's it. Y'all have a good weekend, and I will talk to you next time. Y'all have a great night.